Okie dokie, let's get started here. Congratulations to all the Rams fans and 49er fans and let's see, Cincinnati fans and Kansas City fans. Well, if you saw the last game last night, that was a heck of a game. Okay, let me get you promoted here, and then we will get started. Let's see, Lou, Kevin, Catherine, Julie Colley from California. We got a lot of birthday people this month. California, I tell you what, California is a great place, and January is a great month. Julie had a birthday. Laura had a birthday. Let's see, who else am I perhaps missing here with birthdays? Hopefully I remembered everybody on the workplace. If you had a birthday and I didn't bring it up, now's the time to speak. This will give me a reason to have a big bowl of strawberry ice cream when we're done. Okay, I think everyone's promoted here, so. And there's more hopping on, so hang on just 1 second. Okay. I think I've got everyone here, so. All right, good to see you. Let's see, who do we not have visual on? Let's see, let me get, hey Julie, I'm gonna try to promote you again. See if something pops up on your screen. It could be, maybe if you're on your phone when I promote you, it doesn't show up, I'm not sure. So, but in any case, good to see you guys. Oh, wait.
Hello.
Well, there you are. Now I can hear you.
Gotta unmute.
Maybe he thought something was wrong with my my computer here. So good to see everybody. Hope you had a wonderful weekend. For those of you in the, I guess the Atlantic coast, probably are pretty chilly right now, or have been pretty chilly. So, yep. I had the PF. I had a every quarter we do a family reunion on Zoom because our families all over California and New York and everywhere in between. And everybody was talking about the weather, the crazy weather they've had, mostly the cold. And everybody said, you have to say something about where you are. And I said, and I'm in Florida. So I said, well, I had to wear a jacket today. That's about the best I could come up with, which was yesterday. And it was cool in Florida. I mean, 60 degrees where I am in Florida is very unusual. I got down in the 30s last night, 39 degrees. I think Orlando was like 33. So that's not typical for this area. Bonetta, see if you're promoted now. Let me double check here. Because I did hit the promote button. Let me try again. Promote, and Sam, I got you too. And then Kevin Keller, you should also be promoted. Okay, now where is Laura? I know you're on, Laura, but I can't see you. Let me double check here. Analyst.
Hey, Gary. Hey, Gary, how are you?
Good. Good to see you. Now where did you go?
Nice to see you too.
Yep. Okay, let's kick this off the right way. There's Laura. Saturday was Laura's birthday. And
Laura, did you get my birthday message?
So, happy birthday. Yeah. Oh, Bonetta, I love your message on Workplace. That was awesome. You know?
That was super awesome. Thank you, Bonetta. It really made me smile. I was so amazed. I'm like, how did you even do that?
Honey, yep. I have my secrets. Stick with me, kid. I'll take you places and show you things.
Yeah. For those of you guys who don't know Bonetta, she's not your average bear, or smarter than your average bear. That's the old saying.
Thank you.
Teacher by trade and heart, and very good at figuring things out. So if you get a chance to work with her, especially if you're in the Ramp It Up group, consider yourself lucky. So, okay, Melanie, hi Melanie, Julie, Kevin. I think that is everybody. So Tonight, oh, a couple other recognitions, and I don't know that they're on yet. Shasti and Bradley reached icon status this last year. Yep. And Susan Murray has already capped for the second time on the team. We don't really call it capping on the team, but she's met her team split limit. She's already in Group B. She's passed Group B. She went through Group A in like 3 months. And then this next time around, same thing, got through it. I think in less time than she did last year, actually, probably just under 3 months. Pretty amazing. So, yep, she's one of those quiet performers, very humble. Let's see, for Melanie. Okay, thanks, Melanie. So we want to see you eat, Melanie. If you could bring her and do your video, we want to see you eat. No, just kidding. You don't have to do that. All right, let's see. So tonight we're going to briefly cover actions, and we're going to go right into planning. So this is the fourth of the 4-step process: vision, goals, action, plans. Okay. So I want to make sure everybody's keeping up. I had a great call earlier today with Mo Modupe, and she had her goals complete, and they were good. It was real clear. She had alignment there. I mean, everything was thorough, about 4 pages long, very specific, and very, very much in alignment. The goals were very much in alignment with her vision, from her vision statement. So is anybody here not done? Let's just do a quick check here. Raise your hand if you've done the first part, which is the vision exercise. And if you need the vision exercise, please definitely speak up and let me know that. Okay. I think Beverly sent it out. Speaking of Mo just got on here. So, and Heather too. Hey Mo, hey Heather. Good to see you guys. Okay, so go ahead and show your hands. Who's done the second part, which is the goals? Just quick show of hands here. So vision, goals, that's the first 2 parts. And I see a young Mr. Phillips here, future commercial agent, multimillionaire. There he is. Okay, now how about the third part, the actions part? Okay, good. Now, what's interesting is the actions part is actually one of the simplest parts once you figure it out. Really what you're doing is you're taking the goals that you have and you're asking a question: what actions need to be taken for this goal to be achieved? Okay, so a perfect example, it was Mo today, and we were talking about well, we should probably pick a different subject when we were talking about the last subject, your last goal. Remember that? That was well, we can use that one if you want to.
No, you can.
Okay. So what it had to do with was, having a healthy pregnancy and delivery. And I'm not saying most pregnant. That's not what I'm saying. So she's not, but it was one of her goals. And so the next step is, what actions does that person take? So, we thought, well, ahead of time, in preparation, you want to basically adjust your diet if your diet needs to be adjusted, and start eating healthy foods that are healthy for a pregnancy, right? And you can easily Google that and find out what that is. But, generally speaking, I imagine it's a lot of healthy, whole food, organic type foods, with lots of vitamins and minerals, okay? So you do that in preparation. Those are your action steps. And then, of course, while you're pregnant, the doctor is going to want to see you and do ultrasounds and do blood work and things like that, and also give you those giant, we used to call them the horse pills. I don't know if do they still use those, guys? It's been a while for me, so I don't know. Giant pills to really give your baby all the nutrients that it needs. So those are the action steps, okay? So the way to look at action steps is when you start writing, like for example, if you want to if you want to have 36 transactions this year, okay, and you've done your homework, it takes to have 36 closings, you've got to have, say, 42 contracts, right? Because maybe 6 will fall out. To have 42 contracts, you have to show, either have, so that many listings, or if you're doing buyers, maybe need 6 showings per buyer. So in order to do that, you need to have appointments with the buyer and or the seller to get the contract, right, to list their property or the buyer's agency agreement. In order to have appointments, you have to make so many phone calls, right? In order to make those phone calls, you actually have to have the leads, and that's where it all starts. So if you work your way backwards, for every closed transaction, you may need 100 leads, okay? So what that means is, if you're going to close 36 transactions a year, that's about 1 every 3 weeks, give or take a few, all right? So that means you've got to call 33 people a week. Does that make sense? So in other words, that's divided by 5, that's 6 phone calls a day, something like that. But the reality is we could do much more than that. But what I'm trying to do is help you break down the actions. And you want to write these out, guys, and here's why. When you go through planning, remember, you're going to go through the year, all right? And every week, I do this daily, by the way. I look at my vision goals every single day. I look at the actions every single week, okay? Well, as you go through the year, as you might imagine, you need to refresh your memory. So when you have these things written down, it's easier to do that. You're not wondering, what should I do first, second, and third? You've already got them written down. All you're doing now is putting them in a plan, which is what we're going to go over tonight, okay? So before I jump into it, everybody okay so far? Any questions? Okay, I got a few more promotions here. Hang on one second, guys. Hi, Bunny. Good to see you. Susan, good to see you. Were your ears ringing, Susan? We were speaking about your recent accomplishments. Congratulations, by the way. So, yep, I told him that you'd hit your team split limit on the team for the second time. So, nice. You're muted.
Yes, and my EXP cap. Very happy.
That's right. The same time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yep.
somebody's getting a new pair of shoes. Well, that's good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. So well, let me check the question box here and see if we have any. Some congratulations. Let's see, I'm going to stay off. Okay. All right, I think we're good on the questions. Okay. Now on the planning part, what we're going to do is, if you guys want to just, you can put your pencils down for a second and I'll kind of walk you through this and you can take notes. We're actually going to go back 2 steps to the goals. Okay. So from your goals exercise, you may have had, could be 25 goals, could be 50 goals, could be 100 goals. Well, the reality is, you generally are going to be able to accomplish maybe 3 goals in a year. It could be 5, could be 2, just depends on how much time, energy, and money they take, right? So in order to determine what they are, we have to categorize them, right? So the first category in your goals is always the now goals. What are you working on right now? And the reason I say that is generally speaking, whatever you're working on now, you generally don't want to stop it and then have to start it up again sometime later. If you have to, you have to. But for the most part, you want to finish what you've already started. Okay. Now, those are things you're doing today, to get your database cleaned up, start doing some lead generating to generate leads that you can call, right, to set appointments, that kind of thing. Those are things you're doing now. So your now goals should be 1 or 2 things. Either something you're doing now to accomplish now, right? Or you're doing now to prepare yourself for 3, 6, 9 months down the road, right? Remember my old saying is 1 eye on today and 1 eye on tomorrow. So my general rule of thumb is this: generally speaking, at least one of your goals you're working on should be something that prepares you for something down the road. It positions you to have leads coming in later on, right, through your marketing, for example. Okay, that's the now goals. Now the 1 year goals are everything you'd like to accomplish this year. Okay. Now you may take 2 or 3 passes on this part. Rotation, excuse me, because you may come up with 15 now goals, right? But as you go through the planning process, you realize, well, I'm probably not going to be able to accomplish all 15. So you have to figure out which ones are going to be, maybe the top 5. Everything else goes into the third category, which is basically future. We don't get into the how, 3-year, 5-year, 10-year. That's a different process. What we're doing now is trying to figure out what are we working on now and what do we position ourselves to accomplish this year. Okay, everybody okay so far? Yeah, don't be shy. If you're not, guys, just say, hey, you're on further explanation or example or something like that. These are the kind of things you really want to grasp as soon as you can. Don't be like me. It took me 3 years to figure this stuff out. Okay. But the third, and most people will say about the third year is when it really starts to kick in. So in any case, the future goals, it's not that they're not important, and it's not that you're gonna, they have a lower value. You're just putting them to sleep. That's all you're doing. Just like you're taking a little baby, put it down for a nap. The baby's going to wake up later and you'll play with the baby later. But for right now, you're just putting these things to sleep. So you don't feel bad about it. Okay. It's just, you can only accomplish so much. So when you look at your 1-year goals, and as you start to roughly plot those out, and you just start on a couple of them, and we'll do one here tonight as an example. Okay. And when you realize what it takes to actually accomplish something, then you'll really dramatically narrow down your scope of your focus. In other words, how many goals you're going to try to accomplish, or how many goals you will accomplish. Okay. And it's a big mind shift, because I know for me, probably like many of us, I'd put these goals out there, man, and I'm like, I'm going to go after them. I'm going to do 50 goals this year, only to realize, time and energy and money and other factors sometimes will dictate a different story. So what I learned to do was to not be ashamed or feel bad about only going after 3 or 5 goals, right? The reality is you're going to feed your subconscious mind a lot more positive feedback by accomplishing what you set out to do, even if it's only 3 goals, than you will beating yourself up for not accomplishing 15. Does that make sense? This is a really important concept. I mean, a lot of entrepreneurs, and we're all entrepreneurs here, business owners, are often their own worst critic. Okay. We continually challenge ourselves. That's what we're used to doing. And it's okay to raise the bar, and it's okay to shoot for the stars. Like Og Mandino says, I'd rather shoot for the stars and hit the moon than shoot for the moon and hit a rock. Okay. Now, what he didn't mean by that is to aim for 100 goals this year. What he meant for is each individual specific goal is go for the gusto. Okay. So if your goal for number of transactions this year is say 36, I would suggest you increase that. Okay. I can come up with lots of examples, but I'll give you the one about, my daughter's GoFundMe thing I did back in the fall. Everybody told me, including GoFundMe, hey, you should shoot for around $10,000. And I thought, well, in that case, I'm going to go for 100. So that one specific goal, I multiplied times 10. And what happened is all the actions were driven towards hitting 100. Now, I know from experience, we almost never completely fully hit our goals. It just, sometimes you do, but the reality is and if you do, sometimes you aim too low. But the logic here is this: when you shoot for more than you think you're going to get, we call this game. There's three levels here: floor, target, game. Right? Floor is the minimally acceptable. Like I'm gonna get at least 24 transactions. That or there are nothing. I'm going to get 24 regardless, no matter what. That's your floor. Target would be 36. Okay. Target is what you realistically believe you're going to accomplish. And game is if you really hit it way out of the park. So game should be up there. And then what happens is everything you do, your actions, everything aligns itself themselves with that bigger goal. So you might not hit 100, but in my case, again, you might hit 70, which is way more than 10. So I want to just let that settle in for a second. For me, it was a tough one. I struggle with that because I'm thinking, why would I shoot for something that I really don't think I'm going to hit? And, and this is a tough concept. It's really not what you think in your small mind. Your small mind's going to always try to hold you back, keep you from stepping outside the cave. It's your subconscious mind you're trying to work on and reprogram, right? That's what you're doing. There's all kinds of beliefs and systems and methods for this kind of thing. But just know this, the basic principle works, okay? Within any one individual goal, shoot for way more than you think you're going to get or what you want to get, okay? And go for it. And you may just hit what you thought your original target would be, and certainly go way past your floor. So has anybody done this before? Something like that, where you really just, yeah. Do you know what I'm talking about, Teresa? And if you wouldn't mind, did you find yourself, Teresa, looking back and thinking, you know what? I actually went way further than I originally thought I would just by doing that? Yep.
Yes, definitely. It just everything will flow together so much better the more you can simplify it. And your energy spent is a lot more, focused on the right things and not so scattered, across the year. I mean, it's just easier. And that's one of the reasons I like that 12-week year process too, is that, it really helps you set that goal, reach it, move past it, set the next one. So if you've got more than just say 3 goals that you're really, or 3 things you really want to focus on to accomplish that goal for the year, using that method where you're really focused in for the first 12 weeks for each set, you'll find you can accomplish a lot more.
Yeah.
In a shorter period of time.
Did you first hear that from Laura? Laura, what was her last name? We not talked about her when we first met. The coach from California, Angemir, Laura.
Oh, Laura Langsmeyer.
Yes.
Laura Langsmeyer. Yeah. No, actually, I come across that last year. I was looking in my last year planning process. I was looking for a way in which to, just figure out. I was looking for methods and systems and methods, and I came across the 12-week year, and it's just been. In fact, I want to say. I may even have gotten information on that through Michael Reese.
Oh, okay.
In one of his podcasts, may have been where that actually had come through when I think about it. Yeah. But because I do a lot of that digital president side, I'm in that a lot as well. And, I try to tap into Jay Kinder and Michael Reese as much as I can as well. So it may have came from there last year, but
yeah.
Well,
I appreciate you sharing it. I know the kind of the big picture is this: is narrow your focus on the 3 things you absolutely want to hit, and then you can channel all your energy and resources into those 3 things as opposed to spreading your energy across 25 things. That's really what it comes down to. And the cool thing is, if you read Gary Keller's The One Thing, there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, when I saw that book, I bought it because I knew I had to read it. And it was something I'd already practiced for years and decades. Yeah. And it really does pay off because what happens is you'll start to see the synergies between your goals, not necessarily the goals themselves, but the actions you're taking. So just think about this for a second. If you really properly align your goals, okay, there should be some extra benefit from any one set of actions. So as you take actions on one goal, it will likely have a positive impact on other goals. Follow what I'm saying? It'll make other things easier, or like Gary says, no longer necessary. So it's a great principle. And I know when I learned to practice that, it helped an awful lot. And then the next year, everything I accomplished the year before always made the next year easier. I mean, I pushed myself more, right? I always want to do that. But so in any case, having said that, the first thing you want to do, guys, is this: you want to take your goals, figure out what it is you're working on now, okay? And if it's more than 3, figure out what 3 are the ones that make the most sense now, have the greatest upside potential, all right? And the least downside risk if you don't do it. So if you don't do it, what's the risk, okay? If you do it, what's the greatest potential? Focus on those and keep in mind that synergy principle where, okay, if I focus on this goal here, right? It'll make these other 3 goals next year that much easier. So it's a little bit more technical, but when you think that way and you condition yourself to think that way, it becomes habit. Okay. And that's why I recommend if you've done this mid-year, like if you came onto the team mid-year last year, we still always have you do it beginning of the year. And everybody kind of gets in sync. And then throughout the year, stuff's going to happen. That's why if you look at my plans, first part's always in pen. Those are the things that's like the stuff I do for myself, personal development, health, physical health, mental health, spiritual health, prayer, meditation, learning, all that happens no matter what, communicating with my loved ones, right? Anything else that's related to, the business, for example, those are generally in pencil, because I know that things will pop up and you have to have some flexibility in your plan, all right, to absorb those things. So let's go ahead and start talking about the planning then. Everybody okay? We can start about the planning. All right. So a couple of principles.
I have one question that maybe you can put into your planning. So we
Yes.
have the goal, but we can utilize several different ways to get to the goal, right? I mean, you don't have to do just one kind of lead gen. You can do more than that sort of thing.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, for me, the magic number was always three marketing plans. Now we would constantly test and try things, but the reality is boy, I tell you what, if you really get into this like I did and start tracking and measuring everything, I don't know about you, but for me, it was hard to track more than 3 marketing campaigns. I mean, you got to keep it separate, like what lead came from where, I mean, and what were the results of the leads, all that stuff you've got to track. So I really learned to narrow things down to 3 marketing campaigns. And one of them was always future focused. I'm canvassing, getting ready to bring in the next prospect, the next day, the next week, the next month. And there was always one that was absolutely focused on today. People ready, willing, able now, and just hammer that home. One eye on today, one eye on tomorrow. Okay. So in any case, so back to this. A couple of principles when it comes to planning, and one of those key principles is this: I do this today. I still do. I always keep 2 hours of free time. Okay. I don't know if you can see that, but from 1 to 3 today was free time. I use every minute of it. Okay. Thankfully, that it's very rare that my free time actually stays free. One of the main reasons I keep it there is you never know what agent's going to call and need help at that moment. So if I get one of those urgent calls in the morning, and closings going sideways, I want to be able to adjust, support that agent in their time of need, and then whatever I was going to do at that time, do during my free time. So free time doesn't just mean it's completely free. It allows you to absorb the things that pop up during the day. Okay. And that's one of the most critical lessons I learned, because I used to beat myself up. I'd plot out every single hour and stuff would happen during the day. And at the end of the day, I'm thinking, man, I didn't get everything done. And what kind of message did I plant in my subconscious mind? Yeah, I failed that day. I didn't meet my expectations. And it's not a good thing to do for yourself. You want to be good to yourself. So I first started off doing like a half hour here and a half hour there, and I realized it was working. That's when I started putting in chunks. So the first chunk for me is actually first thing in the morning. Once I'm done, prayer, meditation, exercise, eating, showering, and all that, I actually have about an hour that I can use to tweak my plan, review things from the day before, take in all the emails overnight, the text messages and the phone calls and things like that. And then when I have my first strategy call, I'm completely focused, right? Same thing after lunch, At the end of the day, I always take another hour or two free time. I don't mean my evening time like when I'm reading, but I'll generally do some work in the evening too. I don't mind, because that's just, I like what I do and I'm happy about it. So, but the point is boy, give yourself one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself, which is at least 1, if not 2 chunks of free time every day. I promise you'll use it. Okay. And now what would happen if, oh yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I agree. I started doing that. I started out like last year, just blocking out a couple hours in the afternoon. But then, when I started really understanding the power in that, because it really truly does give you that opportunity to to redirect your day when it gets out of control sometimes. And
Yeah.
you just, you thank the good Lord over and over. Oh my gosh, I got this time blocked out. I'm so thankful I did that. And now I do it. I do a 3-hour chunk in the morning. I do a 2-hour chunk in the afternoon, and I do another 3-hour chunk in the evening. And it's just like I've gained so much more control over my day.
Yep.
It's unreal.
Oh, yeah.
I can get as
Stressful
much
as well.
done still, and probably more because I allowed that extra time to take up slack in other areas. So,
Any of the thoughts or question, guys, on this? Okay. Now, what would you do if you found yourself with a chunk of free time and you really didn't have anything pop up that you needed to use it for? What would you do? Just shout it out. Unmute yourself if you have something to share.
I go play a round of golf.
Take a nap.
Take a nap. Catherine,
I'd probably end up planning.
Free time.
you're like me. You're a worker.
What about your goal on your
Yeah.
thing?
What's free time?
But if not, I'd maybe hit a movie or go out and garden.
Yeah, it's if you think about it, you've got your actions database. There's always things you can do, and this is one of the greatest things of all is taking some action you hadn't plotted out for another day later in a week or the next week, for example. And what it does is it helps you kind of check some of those boxes off in the future. You talk about a good feeling, man, that is a good feeling, But if you're like Catherine, I'll do this too sometimes, and it feels weird, but picking up a book and reading in the middle of the day, I'm like,
Right.
should I really be doing this? But you talk about a great little break, and I'm generally reading something, I like nonfiction, history and autobiographies, things like that. But if I have things I'm learning, I'll do learning too. And learning is an extremely valuable activity to engage in, So what I'm getting at is you've got your actions database. You can always flip ahead to the next day, the day after that, and see if there's something you can go ahead and do in advance to give you a leg up on the situation on a day during the week, So, okay, now let's get down to the planning part. A really good plan, whether it's a 8.5 by 11 notebook where you actually write in the days and the weeks and the months and the year, or something you buy at Walmart, or if you like me, I use Franklin Covey Planner. It should allow you to have a annual view. Okay, at a minimum, this is minimum, annual view, monthly view, weekly view, and daily view. And a daily view should allow you to plot things in at least on an hourly basis, if not, like mine's every 15 minutes. Okay, so please remember that. Right? Annual, monthly, weekly, and daily. Okay, I know some planners even have a quarterly view, which I think is very good. Mine doesn't have that, although I do my own quarterly review on my own. So we're going to take something and plot it out backwards and forwards again. Okay, so in the past, I've used the example of buying your fourplex, a 4-unit building, for example. And we can do anything. In fact, does anybody have a goal that you want to use as a guinea pig?
I do, Gary.
Well, I think Melanie was first. Go ahead, Melanie.
Sorry, I don't want to jump. I was saying buying an Airbnb.
Airbnb. Okay, awesome. All right. So what you do is you take your planner, all right, and go out, let's just say to December 31st, 2022, all right, and you put on there, just write the words, take possession of Airbnb. That's the final step, okay? So you have a whole year to accomplish this. Now, if you think about it, getting an Airbnb, would you guys agree, probably involves multiple steps, right? Multiple objectives have to be met, multiple mini goals, if you want to call them that, smaller goals. So the big chunk, some people like to use the analogy of a rock, and I love the analogy because it works. The big rock is the Airbnb. Now, what are some of the major, mid-sized goals or milestones that need to be met to purchase an Airbnb? Just call out what you think some of them might be. What are some of the key things, key objectives?
Financing in place.
Financing in place. That's a good one. Yep.
Find a place.
What's that?
Find a place.
Yeah, find a place. There you go. Those are good ones. Okay.
Know
Right.
the location.
That's another good one. You must have been, did you read did you study my material on this, Catherine, ahead of time, or
No.
you're hitting all the good ones? So for example, Catherine, when does financing come in place, would you say? Like if typical-
Gary, LLC formation.
That's a good one, Laura. Yep.
So
I would want financing first,
Yeah.
if it were me.
It actually shows up in two places. It's one of the first things you do is do an actual SWOT analysis on your financial situation. But then later on, the actual bank, banks are always going to wait to the end before they go through loan committee and all that kind of stuff. So what we're going to do, I would say the fourth big chunk would be the actual, closing settlement process. Some states are title states, some are escrow states. Let's just call it the settlement process. You're gonna go to settlement, get the transactions in escrow. Could be, 30, 60, on a big place, it's going to be 90 days or more. Let's just say that's the fourth big chunk, okay? Now, right before that, before you go to settlement, what do you have to have before you can even go into escrow? Got to have an agreement, contract, right?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of it's a major thing, but it's not a big time-consuming thing. So to get something under contract, would you agree you had to do analysis on maybe 5 or 10 places? You had to do analysis on several Airbnb possibilities.
Sure.
Which means for that, you had to do what Vanetta said, which is you have to identify. You have to identify them, okay? Now, just to give a little bit of a side lesson here on finding investment properties, we have 2 levels of analysis. The first one is doing desktop analysis on as many properties as we need to identify a few targets, 5 or 10 targets, okay? So before you go look at 5 or 10 properties, you want to do some desktop analysis to determine, does the location merit the rents? Do we think we'll have a high occupancy rate there? And by the way, for Airbnb, if you want to write this down, a different little side lesson here. The best Airbnbs are in places where there's not just a beach, but other activities. And it's also a business destination. Okay. So perfect example is Orlando, Florida. You've got Disney World, you've got Universal, water parks, but it's also a pretty good sized business district. Okay. So you have business travelers and you have destination travelers. And what else is Orlando? What do we know about Orlando as far as the weather goes?
Sunny and warm.
Generally year round. Yeah. Now there are exceptions. Believe me, there's Airbnb in Detroit, Michigan. They have no beach, they have no mountains, but it's a big business area and they do have sports. So one of the things we learned in Airbnb is this. Boy, if the more major sports teams you have in the area, the better. So if you've got NFL, NBA, baseball, hockey, at least 2 of the 4, if not 3, you're going to do pretty well because all year round you've got these sporting events that people will travel to and go to. And if you're in a populated area, you'll probably have festivals, music festivals, food festivals, all kinds of festivals. So all of those things, all those events are things that as an Airbnb owner, you would want to promote on your website. You want to promote all the events, all the concerts. If like Austin's a great music, known for the music. Man, I'd promote the heck out of everything that had to do with music if I was in Austin, So sorry to get off on a tangent. I just want to tell you, these are some of the things we've learned since we've been practicing this and working with people. It's not always the beach and it's not always the ski resort. It's if you want to have a high occupancy rate, go to where you're more likely to get more traffic. So in any case, stepping backwards, what this means is we've got to identify the property, and that could take quite a while. It could easily take 3 months. Okay. Now, before we do that, the chunk prior to that one is going to be the where. Probably where do we want to go invest, right? So we have to look at different areas. I mean, today, boy, with the proliferation of information and data and tools, boy, you could buy anything anywhere. I mean, and I used to, believe me, when I first started off investing, guys, I was only investing in my one area. I was way too concerted to go across the county or even across, let alone across the state. Now I've got no qualms about it. You know, with the abundance of information and data, it's easy to invest in multiple locations. So in any case, area is very important. So if you're in an area that's along the coast, we call that the big smile, right? The big smile. You're generally going to have more densely populated areas. People just tend to congregate around the coast. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't do Airbnb in Dallas or Chicago. You absolutely can. Those are highly populated areas. But what I'm getting at is, if you think about Chicago, Chicago is a major metropolitan area. It's the third or fourth, I think third, and Houston's the fourth. So Chicago has a lot of other cities and towns around it that are part of that giant metroplex. So Rockford, Illinois, some of you probably heard of it. It's not that big, but it's big enough to be known. And I know people that have Airbnb in Rockford, Illinois. And what's interesting is people will stay there and then take trains in and commute into the city. And on the other side, going up 94 towards Minneapolis, St. Paul, is a place called Wisconsin Dells. It's a great lake resort. It's just an awesome, fun place. So the people in Rockford, they know this, you know, so they take advantage of it. But in any case, the location doesn't just mean I'm going to look right here in, you know, Sarasota, Florida, right, or Austin, Texas. If I was in Texas, man, I'd be looking in Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, New Braunfels. It's one of my favorite little hot spots because of the water park and the German restaurants. But look in those areas and spend the time doing it. Really do your research, okay? Because remember, a lot of this stuff, it's one of those synergy deals. Once you've done this upfront analysis on the areas, remember, next year, you can move much more quickly. You've already done the analysis for the first goal. Now your goal of getting 3 more Airbnbs becomes way easier because you already know the areas. You follow what I'm saying? Okay. Now before that, the first big rock really is a combination of things. It's basically getting out of the starting gate. And one of those things is doing a SWOT analysis on yourself. You know, what do you have in savings? What is your credit score? Do you have an available line of credit? The things you would ask your clients, you want to ask yourself. And I would go ahead and get pre-approved. I'd just go to a local banker. I'm not going to publicly knock the large banks, but I'm going to publicly promote the community banks. Go to a community bank. Do yourself a favor. Community banks are so much easier, guys. And any amens on that? Anybody have experience? Yeah, absolutely.
Credit unions.
Credit unions, you
ones.
got it. Go there and make them your business partner. Here's what you say. You know, say, hey, you know, Susan or John, I've been banking here for a while. Even if you're not banking, just say, you know, I've been shopping around, looking around. I want to make an investment, but I want to speak to you first to find out, you know, what you think would be my best course of action when it comes to financing. You know, I like what I hear about your bank, and I value your opinion. Would you mind giving me a 15-minute consultation? Make them your partner and approach them that way, and I promise you, you'll have a friend for life. You'll have a lender for life too. You know, in any case, sorry to get off on a sidetrack there. What I'm getting at is know who you are and where you are in your life and what kind of risk you can take. If you're younger, if you're in your 30s, you can take more risk. You take bigger risk. If you're in your 60s, you probably shouldn't be taking big giant risks because you don't have a lot of recovery time. You know, so you have to think about where you are in your life and think about what makes the most sense and remember the upside potential versus downside risk. Remember, just like any commodity, when the economy goes up and down, real estate can also go up and down. Not a lot, generally speaking, but it does. We saw that the last time, right? So think about that. Let's say you're 69 years old, okay, and you got plenty of gas left in the tank, and you want to have fun with the rest of your life. And you know, for the last recession, that essentially it was at least a 10-year cycle, right? Do you want to take a chance on buying something right now, knowing that potentially the market could shift and it may be a 10-year recovery period? See, that's the kind of thinking that I'm suggesting you do when you're coming out of the gate and you're doing the first of the 4 big chunks, is do that SWOT analysis on yourself. It's not just about the money, okay? You might also want to move. You might be living in you know, Riverside, California, but you might want to move down to Laguna Beach in your retirement years. So do you want to have a lot of properties up in Riverside? Maybe. I mean, it's not that far away, but you get the point. You've got to think through all those other 9 environments in your life. So that first stage, that can take a while. So you want to also figure out in that first stage, who are your team members, contractors, for electrical, plumbing, roofing, flooring, cabinetry, doors and windows, siding, decking, landscaping. Yeah. You want to think about your team of service providers who's going to help you with that Airbnb. You also want to think about, do you have an attorney that you can call? Or how about an insurance agent? Maybe call your insurance agent and say, look, what are the insurance plans available for non-owner occupied properties? In fact, do you insure short-term like Airbnb? So check that out. And you don't want to, that's not something you say to the end. In the old days, people would save insurance to the last thing. Oh, I got to call my insurance guy. Not so much anymore. You got to really think through and ask you may have to go to a different insurance provider, is what I'm saying. By the way, Farmers Mutual has been done wonders for me over the years. There was at one point, all my properties except for one were insured with Farmers Mutual. Very flexible, lenient, easy to accommodate. Liberty Mutual was very good too, by the way. So in any case, all those things, think about who you need to be involved with to be successful with Airbnb. Okay. And also think about this. Do you want to manage the Airbnb yourself, right? Or do you want to contract it out? There's Airbnb service providers all over the place now, and they have big businesses. I know one guy named Gustavo. He doesn't own a single property, yet he manages hundreds of Airbnb units. Okay. He has like a 93% occupancy rate, and he makes a lot of money. He's from Brazil. He's only been in the country like 5 years. And the guy's a hustler. I mean, he's always working and he's having fun. He gets involved with decorating. He plans for all the events. He puts all the word out. He now has a following. Renters follow him where he has Airbnb units because they want to rent from him because he does a good job. So those are the kind of things you want to think of in advance. That would be the first big chunk. Second big chunk, remember, is the area. Third big chunk is finding that one property after going through all the research. And the fourth chunk is the settlement process. So here's what we're going to do. The second, third, and fourth chunks, we're going to put off to the side. We've already got them written down for second, third, and fourth quarter. It's not that they don't matter. They definitely do matter, but it doesn't make sense to focus so much on them. We got the first big chunk to focus on right now. Everybody okay so far? Okay. So that first big chunk, you want to break that down in the 3 smaller chunks because you've got 3 months in that quarter. And this is just how I do it. You can massage this if you want to a little bit. But essentially what you're looking to do is break it down to the monthly level. And this is where things start to get exciting because every month, what you want to do is in the middle of the month, I do this in the middle of the month for the upcoming month, is I will plot out the following month. I will first plot out the weeks and then the days in the month. Now the days I'll put in automatically everything that I do every single day, which is prayer, meditation, exercise, call my loved ones and learn and teach. I teach every day. I'm teaching. Right? Those are the things I do every day. And then as I'm aware of the activities that I have already, I'll plot those in as best I can. Like if I know I've got podcast interviews or one-on-one scheduled, I'll go ahead and plot those in when and where scheduled. But for the most part, the next month is going to not be completely filled in. Okay. All right. So in that month, of course, you want to list all your activities associated with the first month of activities in that first quarterly chunk of buying an Airbnb. And one of them would definitely be speak to a banker, find out what you're able to borrow, make an assessment of your own resources and assets. That would be like 1 month, and the next month might be identify some contractors you can work with. All right. The third month might be, maybe talk to some other Airbnb people. Like you can research, you can go online and see who they are, leave the messages and stuff. Okay. But the point is you want to put the second and third month again on the back burner and focus on the first month and plot that first month out. Okay. Now each week, now some people do this on Saturday, some people do it on Sunday, some people do it Friday night, but every weekend you want to plot out the following week. It's already going to be somewhat filled in because you did the monthly view first, remember? So you're going to have some items already filled in for the next week. But on, let's say Sunday afternoon or after church or something, you're before you go golfing or before you go to the beach or some fun activity, all right? You want to go through the next week and plot things out from your actions database. And this is where you start to get a little more detailed, okay? So each day should be pretty complete, and including some free time, okay? Now, that's the weekly view. Now, every day what I do is, I just start at the beginning of the day. When I wake up, after I've done my prayers and meditation and I've had my breakfast, one of the things I'll do is I'll review the day before, make sure I don't have to make any adjustments. I do that. And basically write out like individual, here, I'll show you a sheet. Hang on one second. This will, so this is last Wednesday, my note sheet. So it's not the calendar part, it's the notes part. It's pretty full. These are all the people I wanted to speak to that day or had to return calls from or emails. So I literally write them in with the phone numbers. I get that specific. Then over here, okay, right here it is. This part here on the actual hourly part, I plot them in. Now if that day goes for a different, that note, those notes go for a different day. Here's the actual notes. I'm sorry, the appointments for the day I just showed you, okay? And over here, the list of things I'm doing, sorry, hang on one second. Let's see, I know I can do this because I've done it before. There it is, right? These are the things I'm going to accomplish. Up here are in pen, right? And down here is in pencil, okay? So you can see everything in pencil was checked off. Everything in pen, I already know I'm going to do it. I should check off everything. If you really want to give yourself positive feedback, actually write this down. This was important. You should check off everything you do that day as you do it. At a minimum, check it off at night. But I say do it while you're doing it. Because what does that do for your subconscious when you do a check mark on something? It's a victory. Absolutely. You're victorious. You know, there's a great saying, which is this. Victory only comes to those who are already victorious in their hearts.
Mm.
You guys know who said that? Me.
No.
That's one of the ones I can actually claim is my own. So in any case, those little victories feed your subconscious mind. Hang on one sec, guys, sorry. And it's just like giving your body eating healthy food, you know, you're feeding your mind something healthy, positive feedback.
Mhm.
So in any case, at the end of the day, I will go through and look at things and make adjustments just like I do in the morning, but overnight, you know, you sleep, you wake up, you have things you thought of during the night that you write down. Those are the things you want to make adjustments on in the morning. And that's essentially the process there. And what happens is when you have your vision, goals, and action plans all together in your planner, okay? And you're flipping back through your actions on a regular basis, and you're always looking at your goals. I look at my goals and my vision every single day. I recommend you do it at a minimum weekly, like Saturday morning or Sunday morning when you're having coffee. Review them at least weekly. You know, you may have time eventually to do it daily. Review those things because it reinforces the alignment. And alignment is one of the most critical things because when things do go sideways, and they definitely will. See, this planning process, guys, it doesn't mean you're going to have the perfect life. That's not what this is. What it means is you know what you're going to get back to when you do get off track. You know what you're coming back to. Okay, it's a guide. It's a map to follow. And the reason I put half of it in pencil is, as I know the roadmap can change on me. Okay, and I'm willing to accept that, especially when it happens so much in life that you just get used to it. But it doesn't mean that I don't still set my goals. I still do, and sometimes crazy things happen. You're working your tail off. I mean, swinging the bat day in, day out. Like I'm not getting any results. Has anybody felt that way before? You're just hustling, and nothing's happening. And all of a sudden, boom, one thing happens, and another thing happens, and it comes in like waves. That's how success is. It's like this, goes up and down. You're trying to provide to low level the field with the planning. You're just trying to give yourself some sanity, give yourself a roadmap. So when they do go sideways, you know what road to get back on. Okay. But the reality is, if you average things out, chances are you do hit your goals, right? But something else magical happens. I don't know how to explain it. I just call it, divine guidance, if you want to call it that. But you'll just get that amazing phone call from somebody saying, hey, so-and-so says they know you and you help them buy a duplex. And I'm 78 years old and I want to sell my portfolio. Is that the kind of thing you do? I'm telling you, it's going to happen. It is a mathematical certainty. I've had it happen 3 times. Okay. And then none of it happened in the first 3 years either, by the way. It took 5 years, 8 years, 10 years. And by the way, the third portfolio came about because of the first portfolio I sold. They believe me, people are tribal. They hang around each other. People golf together, and they said, "Hey, you should call this guy. He got rid of my portfolio in like 6 months." So just know this: keep swinging the bat, keep following your plan, and sometimes your wins will just come right out of left field. Just I don't know how to describe it to you, but that's how it. That's why anymore I don't get so bent out of shape when stuff happens, because I realize, you know what, chances are this is going to lead to something even better. So there's a saying about that too, is always try to be grateful for the things that are taken from you or the things you lose. Could be people, could be relationships. It's painful and it's hard, but chances are you're being prepared for something even greater. Okay. So that's a little side lesson there. That's my preaching moment for today. So, hey, guys, any questions? Anybody have any examples or like a quirky thing you can't quite solve or figure out? We got a lot of smart people on tonight. So I know the planning part can be tough. I mean, for me, it was, I didn't really get it nailed for a while, but when I did, man, I tell you what, when you get it down, it's like the road is paved for you, and the guardrails are up, and you can just hit the gas, So, yeah. Hey, Sam.
Hey, Gary. So I had something that just happened to me. It's a win, I believe, but I'm not sure yet. I want to share it with the team right now.
Mhm.
I have mostly in my last 15 years working with buyers, residential side. In this market, obviously, that's not going to do it anymore. So one of the things I'm working on is I have a person that I've got a contact that's looking to buy 4 to 5 wholesale deals a week in the next couple months. And so they're cash buyers, and I guess they're looking to buy that many. Do you know anybody that would be interested in teaming up with me here in Michigan or Florida or other parts that has that kind of wholesale experience?
I do. His name's Mark Blair, MARC, Mark Blair, and he's one of the top investor agents up there. Yep. In fact, he's not too far from you. Shoot, I just had lunch up there with him a few months ago. If you just keep going up, north of Detroit, go up like what is his name?
He's in Shelby Township, Mark.
Shelby, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, M5 Hall Road and
Is he in the GIA team or no?
No.
yes.
No.
Well, he's got
Yeah, so look up Keller Williams Lakeside. He's a former KW Lakeside agent like myself, and he's like not even a mile from that location. So you can look up Mark Blair. I know him personally. He's an awesome dude. Does a lot of production, and does a lot of wholesaling and flips and all that. So
He's not really officially on the team, but we consider him like an honorary member. So he and his dad and I are doing something. His dad's a minister. We're doing something together related to the Healing House Foundation. So, or sorry, his father-in-law is the minister. By the way,
Right.
Sam, meet Jeff. Jeff, meet
Yes,
Sam.
sir.
hey
Sam's a
Sam,
dear
what's
man.
up?
Hi, buddy.
You guys should definitely connect with each other. You know.
Okay.
Yep.
I was looking for somebody to help me because the market is changing there in Orlando.
Yeah.
You know, just a little background with the people that are in the group, just so that they have maybe some way of working as a team here with the GIA group. I have some, because I'm in property management, I have properties that are under my manage there, being here in Michigan, but a couple of them are looking to sell, and I'm trying to get them to work with me to do it wholesale, because I want to do the Airbnb now. But the problem is because I bought the company and I took a loss back in 2020. Whatever I make profit in 2021, it's going to be half that amount because of my losses. So one of the things that I'm trying to do, Gary, is to get financing through like what they're doing in Central Florida. There's a project or a program going on. You might know about it. It has to do with you rent the property from the particular owner, and they set aside 25% of your rent for the next, say, 3 years. And at that point, you buy the property at a strike price. And you could do whatever you want with it in those 3 months. You don't have to live there. You could just turn it into an Airbnb like it is. So if you buy the house, they give you back your 25% of the property, the rent roll. Have you heard anything about that?
That's new to me. I haven't heard that. Is that a statewide program or just in Orlando area?
I met with I talked to a real estate agent down there, and she told me that there's a program that they have. I don't know the details, but she told me it's a program that they're starting, and they're having a lot of success because, you know, with the situation we're in, either you're dealing with cash buyers. If you're doing FHA, you're basically spinning your wheels for nothing if you're working on the buyer side, right? Mm-hmm. Because there's no inventory. There's not a lot of property that is going to win that type of deal, either conventional or cash. And mostly cash is king right now. But this is on a wholesale level, though, where, you know, you can get you can buy you get to rent the house, and then you buy it in 3 years, which at that time you've built your investment, your tax returns are a little bit higher, where you can qualify for more money.
Yeah.
So
This is owner finance.
I'm trying to think big, huh?
This is a type of owner financing.
Yeah, there's a agent that actually came from Orlando, and he's in our office now, who actually he used to do this sort of thing in Orlando. And that's what I was just thinking too, Catherine. That's what they did. It was an owner financing. It was their company would buy the property. The buyers would get to pick out the property even. They'd get even pick it out, and they'd buy it, and then they would get that opportunity to buy it back from them. So that kind of sounds similar to what this person.
And you said he's in Orlando?
He was in Orlando. He moved to Austin now, but that was his. That sounds really similar to what his business, his structure was there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something that's doable, but, you know, in the next 24 hours, I want to think big. And part of thinking big is I want to create some sort of plan in place, you know, and like I want to sharpen my mental faculties. So I want to be able to, you know, put together something where this is what I want to focus on. You know what I mean, Gary?
Yep.
And that's what I'm trying to do. So if you guys can help, that's a great way to get started with this type of getting rolling on this Airbnb business.
Yep. And bear in mind too, the market it's already starting to change. I mean, you know, I want to make sure everybody is looking at this through a positive lens. I'm sure you've seen the first half of January, the stock market was going down. Okay. And they're not just doing that for the old reason. The stock market is always a predictor of what's coming down the road. And what's coming down the road is more inflation and higher interest rates on borrowing money. So whenever you have that, there's a cooling off in the real estate market. So that it out of balance is going to start to get more back in balance. So nobody knows if it's going to be a normalized market or if it's going to swing the other way like the last recession did. Nobody knows that. We can always prognosticate and then guesstimate, but I do believe we're going to see some normalization, and I think we're already seeing it. And most of the folks I know and most of the markets are saying that they can see an increase in days on market, an increase in inventory, and fewer crazy offers. But this is just the beginning. We're just getting out of the gate. So just keep that in mind. And what happens whenever there's a changing market, the creative purchasing techniques become more prevalent. Okay. So a lot of these things we're talking about, they've actually been done before. I mean, there's was a wave of activity in the 1950s. People were writing books and they didn't have, infomercials back then or internet, but there were, teachers teaching us stuff. And then a lot of the guys that came out in the 70s and 80s, they just basically, resurrected all those old things and kept them going. And now I see more and more of them happening. I mean, let's face it, what's better? Prices going through the roof or interest rates through the roof? There's actually no good answer to that question, by the way. It's just, if you think about it, both are challenges, right? But what happened in the late 70s into the 80s? Interest rates were 18, 19, 20, 21%. So in any case, some of the things that are going on now are like subject to purchases. It's not the same as an assumption. You basically set up a trust, you transfer the property into a trust, okay? And then the buyer, who's ultimately using a trust to take possession of the property through the trust, is actually making the payments, the original mortgage payments on behalf of the old owner, as well as giving the old owner an extra, bit of money for profit. And what it does is it bypasses the due on sale clauses in mortgages. Mortgage companies can't call in a note that's inside of a mortgage, or inside of a trust, excuse me. So that's been very popular last couple of years. Of course, to me, Airbnb, corporate housing, those are the answers for me. I just like keeping things simple. And I know that those two sectors, particularly corporate housing, has been expanding. That market sector been increasing dramatically. When you've got government contractors, you've got the film industry, you've got the medical industry, people in software development are always, there's contractors all over the place for them. Engineers have contractors. They all need places to live for 3, 6, and 9 months, and they'll pay double their prevailing monthly rates on a traditional lease. Okay, so in any case, there's all kinds of strategies like that. And if you want to read the chapter on creative purchasing techniques, it's the same book we mentioned the other week, the Massive Passive Cash Flow Method. I can't remember what chapters, maybe chapter 4, maybe. It'll say creative purchasing techniques. There's 30 techniques in there that I've either done myself or been involved in. And there's a whole list of government programs, okay? So in many of those things you can do in today's market, okay? So Sam, what I would encourage you to do is set up, next time we talk, set up 2 calls back to back, 2 half-hour slots back to back, so we can make more progress on one specific goal, So,
Gary, where am I going to find this creative purchase technique on the investment portal?
I'll have Beverly's going to listen to this. Beverly, if you could send that chapter out tomorrow to all the listeners, that would be great. And so you'll get it. You'll get a link in the email. So I think she sent it out before. I mean, she could just send the whole book again, but really that chapter is what I would look at, Sam, and look at and compare notes. Compare different strategies. So, and by the way, believe it or not, there's different customs in different parts of the country. So I remember back in the 80s when interest rates were so high, for sale by owner was rampant. It's like everybody was for sale by owner, and we were in Virginia. And then I moved to Pennsylvania, in the late 80s, early 90s, and nobody was doing for sale by owner. And matter of fact, people thought I was weird. Like, they're doing what? You used to like I was doing something illegal. That's what they thought. Yeah, crazy. So just bear that in mind. Good stuff, guys. Good subject. Good questions. Let me check the chat box here. What properties with a first lien position open and loan? Hey, by the way, did you guys know that VA mortgages are still assumable today? And also a lot of variable rate mortgages are also assumable. So when you hear people say you can't assume mortgages anymore, that's actually not true. So variable rate mortgages and VA mortgages, okay?
Wow, that's good to know.
Yep, let's see.
So what would you recommend on a strategy? If let's use the Orlando market, for example, where they're doing this program and they're trying to have the invest, like they talked about the investment seller financing. What's the difference? What are the pros and cons for the
I'm not being familiar with that program. The first thing is I would definitely study it. I would gather information on it so I understand it. And then I could compare it to other strategies. But really, honestly, Sam, it's a lot of times it's a case by case scenario. Every property and every owner situation is different. So that's why I like having a lot of strategies at my disposal, so I can just pull from my tool chest. Well, this strategy will work best in this scenario. It's just not like a one size fits all.
Gary, I mean, this is new to me. You know, I'm more on the getting a customer financed, and I don't worry about the details of the financing. Where here it's learning a new way of doing things where the financing have to be learned through you being the buyer.
Well, I've seen several variations of this over the years. Different, like people do lease options. I mean, this strategy here, where you're essentially, buying something and somebody can buy it back later. That's actually been around for a while in different forms.
Sorry, Gary, I had a call come through. Can you repeat yourself?
I wish I could remember what I said. So the concept of buying something and be able to sell it back to somebody later, that's actually been around for a while in different forms. Other variations are like a lease option, where you get a property under control by leasing it with an option agreement to give you the right to purchase it at a later date. So you rent it for a couple of years, and eventually you purchase it. And while you're doing that, you're building up the credit, you're saving money and all that kind of stuff. So to me,
what's a safer, because my risk tolerance is not like high. What it would be a safer way? Assuming a mortgage on an existing finance, or actually doing it where you're leased through option to buy option?
Well, all right. I'm not going to knock any particular strategy, because sometimes then certain gurus will get upset. But I will tell you, if you can do a straight assumption, that's generally going to be safer for you, better than doing a lease option.
I would say so too.
Yep.
Hey, Gary,
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Melanie. Yeah.
Oh, Gina mentioned in the chat box, she was asking if we can do a whole class on custom financing and creative financing. So I wanted to make sure you saw that, because I would love that too.
Yeah. In fact, Gene and I were discussing a recent, possible lease option, and we've had one of our own students and agents, unfortunately, be on the negative side of one of those things. So there are definitely risks with those. The lease options, they're pro owner, like I would say the benefits lean towards the owner and away from the buyer. Whereas a rent to own leans more towards benefits being on the buyer side and less on the owner side. Two different things, but a lot of people confuse them. Rent to own is definitely different than lease option. So we'll do a class. I've got next week, Dustin Nolf is coming in to teach. He's new on the team to teach about property management, like the top 5 things you need to know. On the 7th, Jim Martin is a traditional lender, and he's one of the best there is. He's national. He's going to talk about the insides of lending money, like things. If you ever want to know why do banks do this, why do banks do that, Jim can tell you. Jim's the guy that we were actually going to launch a room bake with years ago. That's the Jim I was telling you about before. That's him.
Hey, Gary, can we move around the, is it set in stone, those dates for doing
Yeah,
that?
we have to because they have their guest speakers. They have their own schedule. and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
I understand.
So,
Because I would be more interested in the alternative financing and straight assumption.
Yeah.
As
Yeah,
soon
we'll
as
definitely do
possible.
Yeah, we'll definitely, I'll make sure. We also have Liz teaching about how to set up your own corporation. Remember that came up, I think, 2 weeks
Yeah.
ago?
Nice.
Liz is going to talk to you about that. Whatever the next date is that I'm teaching, I'll make sure we do creative purchasing techniques.
That's
Hey,
awesome.
Gary,
Okay.
I have a question back on the planning one also.
Yep.
Okay, so the first week that I did my planning, I wrote everything down. I worked about 70 hours that week trying to get it all done. Did not get it all done, but did do a huge chunk. Second week, I'm like, okay, that's way too long of a list of the in pen items. So I shortened my list down. Still didn't get it all done. Last week, I've sort of been on vacation, as you know, up in Jersey and all that. So I didn't plan for much more than vacation. But how do I, like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I not able to get this stuff done?
Well, can you give me an example? Because I know like during the day, you've obviously got outbound calling you're doing, and you've also got inbound calls, appointments you set. So is there another, other than your free time, is there another chunk of 1 or 2 hours that you've earmarked for a particular project, like buying an investment property, for example? Is that one of a good example that we can use, or give me an
Well, yeah.
example?
It was for buying my own property. It was to do the research and everything and all on that.
Yeah. All right. Well, keep in mind, whenever you're endeavoring to do something, and it's generally the first time you've done it, it's really like going through the woods with a blindfold on. We can only project and plan based on our past experiences. So sometimes you get lucky and everything just goes perfectly well, but generally speaking, that's not the case. Things will pop up. You hit roadblocks. You have things you didn't anticipate. So as a general rule of thumb, if I was starting out to buy my first property, I would still, even if it's just a duplex or a single family, I would probably still make it a year-long endeavor. Okay. It'd be better to come in ahead of schedule, right? Than to get behind and then all of a sudden you're feeding your mind, your subconscious mind, negative input. You're like, yeah, I didn't hit my goal, doggone it. That kind of negative energy has a bigger impact on you. So I would plan for more time. And I definitely will tell you this: the more properties you can look at, the better. Man, I mean, keep looking at properties. It's hard to do because you're so driven to buy one. I remember exactly what that's like. Believe me, you just want to buy one, and it's hard to be patient. But I would set the goal, Gina, for physically looking at 10 properties. You might only look at 7 before you buy one, but make the goal 10. Look at 10 properties thoroughly, analysis, physical analysis, financial analysis, thoroughly before you ever buy one. And that way because right now, if you go out if you've done the learning, the academic learning, your mindset is you're going to go get one. That's it's good to have that, but that first one might not be the best one. And I know the risk is that first one that you let go might have been the best one. Okay. But there's another saying in real estate, which is the bus will be around again tomorrow. Every day there's more people needing to sell, more people wanting to buy. So there'll always be opportunities. And the best thing everybody here, this is really important when it comes to investing. You should make a habit of analyzing properties at least once a week, okay? Just get in that habit, not just for yourself, but for your clients too. And in fact, I know agents, and many of you have met Christine. She spoke last May with her client, Benny. As a general rule, she's going through analysis just to stay in the habit of it. And because she also knows every now and then something pops up and she's like, holy smokes, nobody's seen this one yet. And she calls her top 3 investors. So always be in the habit of looking at properties, whether for yourself or for your clients. So back to that, Gina, was it mostly related to that, investing in one property? Was that what most of the setbacks were related to?
It was a little bit hard for because I really did want to buy, and it was a little hard. And I'm really glad that you talked some sense into me, to be really honest. And and your advice was so good in that I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. I'm in the car, and so it's hard to hear some of this. But your advice that was so good was one major project in a house. By all means, go for it. Two major projects. Really look at your numbers. Three major projects, like you need to nix that. And it was three major projects and long distance. But you're right. I am in the mode of buy a property like now. And I know that in a place of abundance, there's 18 million other properties. It's a big country. I'll find something else. But I did have a goal of 4 the first year. And if I hear you correctly, you're like, first one, maybe take a year, but just take your time.
Yeah, it might not take a year. I'm trying to think, when I first set out to buy my first one, I actually bought 2 because it was the same owner and they're right beside each other. And I'm thinking, boy, this is just, I don't want to pass this up. But I think from the beginning, when I realized I was going to do that, I bet you it was a year, Gina. I bet it was a year. I had to think about it because it was, we just moved into our new house. We just built it. I had a clean slate. I was like, okay, now I can focus on this. And it was the following late August when I closed on those 2 properties. So yeah, a year, you know. So, and I definitely looked at a bunch, you know.
Yeah, because I really was like, why don't I have? I made a goal, and then 2 weeks later, I'm woohoo.
Yeah. Well, tell you what, still make the goal that one property 1 year, but make some of the smaller rocks, the interim goals, the midterm ones, or the mid-range, excuse me, make those analyze. Maybe if you can do a property a month, that'd be great. But if you can do one a week, analyze one a week, that would be even better. But I know you're somewhat about your current circumstances. One a week could be pretty tough. You know, like to do the physical analysis, that is, to do a financial analysis, heck, you can do one a day. But to physically look at a property, that just takes physical presence. And I know when you're got a business and you're caring for others, and it's just hard to do that kind of thing. But I would set a goal to analyze at least 10 properties, you know. And again, you might get to the 6th one, the 7th, and say, hey, Gary, I think this is the one. But we'll get back on the horn again and look at things, and I'll give you my 2 cents worth, you know.
I love it. Thank you very, very much. It's a perfect goal. I mean, I'm chipping away at the other stuff in between. I'm getting pre-approved anyway. I'm just switching it to just let me know what my, instead of this is the dollar amount, just let me know what I can work with. And we're moving forward with that. And then as soon as we figure out the property, everything's the LLC is just, that's only 2 days setup. So everything else, I'm just chipping away at it, make sure it's all in place. So when we can do it, we can jump.
Yeah, good. Hey, thank you, Gina, by the way. Hey guys, one more site. Mo pointed out Air DNA. It's right there on the screen. She typed it in there. Another one is called Mash Visor. Okay, so Mo, I'm going to retype your Air DNA here for everyone. And if you can remember, Mash, Visor. That's another Airbnb analysis tool. Both are good. I've used them both. I think one of them, I forget which one, maybe it's Mash Visor, gives you like a free 30 days. Now, bear in mind, when they give you statistics, you're going to see in some areas occupancy is only like 30%. That's just an average. Some Airbnb owners are not full-time players. They're just doing it like every now and then. They'll rent it out to friends or family or something, or they just plain stink at it. I do know Airbnb operators who are clearly above 90% occupancy, you know, so you just have to set your goal. Is this going to be a hobby, or is this going to be, you know, something you're really going to focus some attention on, and plan accordingly, you know. So Melanie, where you are, I know you don't have any real major sports teams there, but let's face it, you're in a really nice place, you know.
Yeah, I guess there's challenges though in Austin with getting a new, starting a new Airbnb in the city of Austin. So around it, we're still able to, but not in the city. So, this is all new territory for me because I don't know. I just started my research. I already started my application. I spent the whole weekend, turned everything in yesterday. So
Yeah.
I've got everything with the loan officer. So I'm moving on that. But as far as the research, and I started with this air DNA, and I'll do the mash razor too. That's
Yep.
as far as I've gotten. And then I'm watching Rob Bilt's videos, and then that's all.
Yeah.
You know.
We've got a
Hey,
major
Gary,
university there.
can I say something
Great
with
music center,
regards-
lots of concerts and shows and stuff like that. So I think, I mean, I've been there a couple of times, obviously. I think you can do well, but the same thing, if you want to run something by me, just like Gina, just like the one last year, just let me know,
Will do. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Yeah,
You're welcome. Sorry, Sam, was that you, Sam? I think somebody else-
Yeah, Gary, that was me.
I'm sorry.
I was just, sorry, no problem. I was just gonna say to Melanie that, Melanie, one of the things that I've been hearing on Airbnb, that's a game changer, and it's not for the better, it's actually for the worse, is that in the past, Airbnb didn't have the ability to post or list properties like apartment complexes or those big like hotels, because if they wanted to do it, it wasn't profitable for them to do it, because they would have to list every one of those units individually. So none of them ever did it. However, Airbnb now has a way, instead of them listing 100 units individually, they can now list one unit for 100 units. In other words, they have the ability to now just advertise that one location, and they can rent up to 100 units. So that's going to be very challenging doing Airbnb now with that game changer with their system. So don't think that Airbnb is the only one out there. I mean, you need to do your research and see, maybe, VRBO might be better for you in Austin. I don't know. It's just, like Gary says, don't jump into something. If you have the time to do it, make sure that you understand how the market's shifting and how the big players are trying to compete against the small bed and breakfasts like us.
Yeah. No, that's really good advice. Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
Evolve is another one too to check out.
What was that? Did you say, Teresa?
Evolve.
Oh, thank you.
I'll type it in there
Thanks
for you. They take a little bit more of your commission. I believe they work on a 10% commission, but they do a lot of the marketing for you. They do all the customer service for you. It's a little bit different than VRBO and Airbnb, but it's very, very interesting to check them out.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I haven't heard of them. I've heard of the name, but I didn't know what it was or anything yet. So thank you very much.
Yeah. Hey, Lou Carlson, I'm looking at the schedule here, guys. It looks like February 28th is when I'll be teaching the creative purchasing techniques. But Lou, that open-end first lien position, is that one of the things that Lou's teaching? Because I can have you, pinch it along with me. I'll teach, maybe 3 techniques, and you can teach that one if you want. I don't know if Lou's still there, guys. I can see. Oh, there he is. Yep. And Lou, see if you're muted. If you're not muted, but see if your sound is active.
Yeah, I'm present.
There you go. Hey,
Yeah,
you
no,
want
I'll
to-
tell you, I've been having a lot of success with this. Once I was introduced to this is an absolute game changer.
Mhm.
The first lien position loan, there'll never be a foreclosure again. You have access to your money. And it's automatically, you pay off a 30-year note in like 7 years. It's built into the program. So once this gets traction, it will take do away with the evil mortgage industry.
Yeah. You want to hear a good one? You guys, most of you know I was in banking for many years. That was my original corporate profession. Guess what we call bankers now? banksters. Get it?
Yeah,
Really?
you, yeah,
That's funny.
Hey,
it
Gary,
is legalized crime.
hey,
Yeah.
Gary,
Yes, ma'am.
Lou, what is that you said that there'll be no more, what is the service or this?
Well, there would never be a foreclosure because you have access to your money. It's open-ended.
I'm sorry, I don't understand. What do you mean? Something is going to change?
Well, a mortgage is closed end. Money goes in, you cannot take it out. You could have a mortgage 90% paid off,
Right,
okay? Say you have a $200,000 mortgage and you're down to $20,000. Well, let's do this. Let's say you're down to $50,000 balance. You hit a bump in the road, you lose your job, you're still at risk. You could
right,
lose your home in 90 days.
right.
With this being open-ended, you have access to your money. Open-ended means you can pull money out,
What is
money in,
What
you
is
make
this?
payments,
I don't
but
get.
you can also make, if you hit a tough time, you could live off of that first lien position note by taking money out. You could live a couple of years off of that money.
I'm sorry.
What is the program name?
What is the program?
That's-
That's what
yeah.
I don't get.
Yeah,
What's it called?
I'll share it with Gary in detail and then Gary can go ahead and share it with the rest of the group.
Yeah,
Okay.
and Lou's joining the team, guys, so we'll have him on. Lou, if you don't mind, on February 28th, we can bring him back on again. But for what they're saying, guys, if you think about life insurance, where you have cash value build up over time, what they're doing here is you're borrowing a bunch of money, principal, and when you pay it back, you're paying that principal back. What they're doing is they're giving you access to that same principal, basically in time of need. I don't know what all the rules of the program are, but we'll definitely find out. That's amazing. I wasn't aware of that, and that's something could be positive. I can see it being
Well, it really is an investor's dream because
exactly.
you have one property financed that way. You can finance other properties with that mortgage.
Yeah.
With that, you really never want to pay it off. You just want to have that as the characteristics are a lot like a HELOC.
Yeah.
No,
I
and
was
actually,
looking-
you can use a HELOC to or any line of credit to facilitate the pay down of a mortgage.
Right. The thing I like about this, though, is obviously it can grow over time. Generally speaking, a home equity line of credit, whatever that is you're able to borrow is fixed at the time you took it out. You'd have to go through another process, but
Yeah,
it kind of reminds me a little bit of a reverse mortgage in a way. And that's the only thing that scares me.
Thank you.
This is great for investors, but I can see, unfortunately, some folks who are elderly doing this to try to make ends meet, only to find out at the end of time they've their house, they've borrowed all against it. But
Gary, there's really no negative side of this. The reverse mortgage can be dangerous if it's not used correctly.
Yeah, but this sounds pretty. The thing I like about this is you can't borrow more than you can't take out more than is there. So it's not like you can. I mean, theoretically, you could take it all out, but then and then if you don't make your payments, then
it's structured just the opposite of a mortgage. A mortgage is the interest is front end loaded.
Yeah.
And most people think that, okay, I have a 3.5% interest rate or 3%. That's just a stated rate. It's so misleading. Your true interest rate is how much you pay each and every month.
Mm-hmm.
So on a 3% interest rate, your actual, stated rate, your actual interest rate is about 67%. That's going towards interest, and 33% towards principal each and every month for about 10 years.
Mhm.
You don't drop below 60% for 10 years. So you're really getting clobbered with mortgages. Mortgages, I mean, I detest mortgages. And I've been on a crusade to
Yeah.
defeat mortgages for years.
Yeah. I like it. Hey, guys, I do have one thing we have to vote on here. Monday, February 14th is what day?
Valentine.
VD.
Yeah. So we could forego class that night. I know it was suggested to me already in a couple of one-on-ones, and I know in the past, when I was with KW, we always had family reunion. It seemed like always was over Valentine's. I was never over Valentine's, you know. So any case, if you guys want to cast your vote, let me know. You know, I'm leaning towards not having class that night. You know, not all of us have. Vanetta, you're voting for it?
I think you should take the night off, Gary, but
Yeah, I'm voting again. I'm voting with you to have the night. I'm not gonna be here. I'm gonna be out of the country. So
yeah.
Okay.
it don't matter.
You need a
But
day off.
I'm voting not to have it that night with you.
Okay. I guess
That's,
I can.
how about we just give that as our Valentine to Gary
Yeah.
as a team?
Oh, you guys are
Time
Love
off.
you guys
that.
are awesome.
Happy Valentine's Day, GP.
Yeah.
That's it.
Happy
You guys-
Valentine's Day.
Thanks, guys. I'll just earn a whole bunch of bonus points. Now all I gotta do is find a date, and it'll be the perfect
Right.
night.
We
All
can,
right.
we'll keep our eyes peeled for that too.
Yeah.
We'll put it out there in the universe.
There you go. Okay, well, I think that's it. Let me go real quick. Let me go back to my notes here, sorry. All right, let's see. We talked about planning. Oh, make sure the videos that Beverly sent out back in December, if you haven't seen them, please watch them. You can do one a day, one a week. I think there was only like 5 of them. They're awesome. And let's see, next week, talk Dustin. Oh, on your vision statement, I did mention this, but I want to repeat it. Go ahead and go to Google and do search free pick of, and then as best you can describe, you know, 5 or 6 parts of your vision, you know, free pics of world travel, free pics of, you know, perfect romantic relationship, whatever, free pics of, you know, $1 billion, whatever you want to do, and make your own little vision board out of it. What I do is I keep mine in my planner because I'm traveling all the time. I can't put a big board up. I can put it in my car, I guess. But do that, okay? And then the one last thing here is I want to run this by you guys. Many of you know Teresa was putting together a business plan back before the holidays for performing as an ISA for anybody, really, for that matter. But we were going to beta test it on the team here, and then go outwards from there. And Teresa came up with a slightly different approach to it. So Teresa, would you mind tell everybody what we looked at the other day, like the 2 different options now versus what it was before?
Right. Well, and I don't have a sheet pulled up right now to share it, but it's in a very shortened format. We're looking at, and we've created two different types of programs. What's called the cold market program, which is based entirely off me finding, locating, and building, you know, referrals up for you, getting them qualified and fully converted and ready for you to sign on with them. That would be that would be payment back to me on a 25%. It'd be just like a referral fee, 25% commission. And then if you wish for me to take your warm market, your database, and work it, also possibly converting, and it's really taking, it's like me sitting down next to you and making myself available to work your database and or any other leads that you have that you provide. Actually, in that program, you would provide those leads to me, whether they be warm or kind of half cold. And developing those. Anyway, that would be based on a monthly fee. And then those that actually convert and go into a close that I've had any direct connection with in helping you convert them and get them to the closing table would be paid out to me at 12.5%. So it just creates kind of two different types of programs. One that you can work with me directly on a commission only basis, or one where I'm more, I'm really developing your database. I'm working your database every day. I'm creating, what I call a Dream 100 pipeline for you. There's just a lot more detail in that involved. So it requires so much more of my time. I'd have to do it on a month-to-month, salary type affair. And then also those that I actually convert with you and help you get them to that closing table and they sign off with, would kick back a 12.5% commission to me in that respect. So that's the two different programs. If anyone's interested at all, I'm happy to go over that in a whole lot more detail individually with you. And part of that is really taking my time to consult with you and understand what it is you're trying to accomplish and how exactly I can help you and maybe customize what I'm doing around what it is you're trying to accomplish, so that it's not just you're only going to get this and that's it sort of format. I can and certainly am willing, and I really look forward to customizing it around each individual's needs. I think it makes life more interesting and a whole lot more fun.
Teresa, I don't want to put you on the spot. This is Sam. Sorry. Have you done any wholesale deals?
I haven't personally done any wholesale deals on my real estate side of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You guys like that approach?
But Sam, when you're thinking about what Teresa can do for you, she can actually prospect for homeowners that haven't sold yet, and they might be perfect candidates for that wholesale category that you're looking for to find the property. So that actually might be a really good person to connect with.
Okay. I guess there's a learning curve because I haven't done wholesale deals either.
Yeah. Well, I think it's understanding your market, who's going to be more in tune to going, for you actually presenting a wholesale deal to them. And then also those that are looking to do, to be on that other end of the wholesale deal with you. And
so I have a buyer that's looking to buy 4 to 5 deals a week. So if I find the right sellers, we can close pretty quickly. They're cash investors.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, just off the top of my head, one of the first things I do is really search my area for FSBOs. There's a lot of those. Sometimes it's one of the reasons they're not even listing is because they don't want to go through the whole process of listing. And if you've got somebody that's looking to buy a home and can purchase something outright cash wise, you might find some for sale by owners that are willing to, cut through the red tape and deal directly with you in that sense.
I won't tell you, fundamentally, it's much easier to wholesale when the market's down than when it's up. Because if you think about it, when the market's up and anybody can put a sign in the yard and get 20 viewers and 3 offers, I mean, it just doesn't make sense to wholesale yet. You can still find wholesale deals. You can in that market, it's just not as easy. And really, Sam, I would, one of my suggestions would be is, use Really Flow. And they have a new term that was from the commercial side only, now also in the residential side, was people who are behind on their property taxes. Okay. So you can search for those in your area, and do that work or have Teresa do it for you, right? But either way, that would be a good category. In other words, go to the source. You know, wholesaling is, unfortunately, a lot of people don't do it correctly. That's why it gets such a bad rap. That's why most brokers don't like it, because too many people get hurt. There is a correct way to do it. And we do teach that, by the way. There's a whole program just behind wholesaling, but it does involve the agency and involves errors and omissions insurance, which traditional wholesalers don't get to participate in because they're not doing it. They're trying to keep everything off market and not reported and not recorded and all these things that can be harmful to consumers. So if you utilize agency, everybody's protected with E&O insurance, except the wholesaler, by the way, which is interesting. But the consumers, the buyer and the seller are protected, the agents are protected. There's still room for profit. But again, at the end of the day, and I'll just put this out there to everybody here, I do teach it, I have done it. But I'm going to tell you, in my 36 years of experience, you are far better off just using your license and the traditional sense of agency to earn money and help consumers make money too. Because what is a wholesaler doing? They're doing what realtors should be doing. And not only that, they're taking a huge chunk of profit out of a property. There still has to be a buyer and a seller, right? So what's better to a consumer to cough up, 20,000 to a wholesaler, or pay a realtor 10,000, and get protected by insurance. So that I'm putting that out there because I know I teach it.
Gary, and I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just looking at it from a different perspective, not necessarily that it's a seller's market. I'm looking at it because as an agent, there's not a lot of inventory out here. And when there are houses for sale, you're competing against so many other agents. And I'm trying to find a niche where I'm not competing against so many agents. So if I can work with Teresa on developing maybe an agency disclosure here in Michigan, because Michigan has different agency disclosure, and I'm not sure if she even has the ability to work in Michigan, because it's it would, if we were in the same team, we would have to be dual agency here, which is it can be done, and it could be a slam dunk actually. So I'm kind of looking at it from a different perspective than you are, Gary.
Yeah, well, I understand, but think about it this way: how are the wholesalers finding these properties?
Every market's different, but it's usually they're trying to do they pay like this service where it's $19 a month, and they're looking through the databases and they're looking at the deals with their people like for sale by investors, for sale by owner deal type of that want to get out. Where every week I get a thing in my mail or a text from my phone saying we buy homes cash, no questions asked, as is. They're not competing against anybody by doing that.
No, they're creating their own inventory.
Huh?
Yeah.
They're creating their own inventory.
The point I was getting to, Sam, is they're also looking at court records and property records, the same records we have access to through ReallyFlow.
Well, I guess I need to take a step back and see how I can utilize this way of doing things. If I got a person that wants to do 4 or 5 deals wholesale per week, and I can find those deals, I think there's a way to do it. I just do. I have the buyer. I just need the inventory.
Yep. Yeah, did you watch that video I suggested you watch? The one
I finally got access today, so I'm going to look at it in the next week.
Okay, good. Yeah, that'll shed a lot of light on it. There is definitely a way to do it. Yep. So
thank you.
Yep. Hey guys, so I'm actually about 20 minutes late for not a business call, but a family call. So and I keep texting me here, but
okay.
But I don't want to leave if you still have more questions. I mean, I'd rather stay and have you ask the questions, and if not, then we'll see you next Monday. Make sure you're on for Dustin, especially if you're an interest in learning about property management, because he's going to play a big role in that going forward.
Thank you, Gary.
Oh, you're welcome.
Mhm.
So-
Thank you for the time, Gary. And Sam,
You're
give me a call. We can chat.
Okay, will do.
Okay, guys.
Thank you, Gary.
Hope you have a wonderful evening and a great rest of the week. God bless you and your families. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Gary. Same to you.
Thank you,
Okay.
Gary.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.